I'm Helen Partlow with Waypoint Immigration USA, and we just released a brand new free NIW Success Guide. It's a step-by-step roadmap showing you how the NIW works, the evidence USCIS looks for, and the mistakes to avoid. Download your copy today and start building your future in the U.S. Hello, everybody. A couple of minutes late here today. It's just one of those days, busy, of course, like everybody else, I'm sure, at the end of the year, December. Lots of moving parts and lots of things to get done. So anyway, I hope everyone is doing okay. It's definitely cold and still snowy here on Long Island in New York. We got a couple inches over the weekend, and it's very cold today. So that snow is not going anywhere, at least not for today. I hope everyone else is doing well. Busy mode here at the firm, trying to get our last clients filed, make progress on everyone else. Still taking some consultations here and there, but definitely a lot less, so we can help finalize everything this week. So our firm is actually closed starting on the 23rd through the 1st. So if anyone has any need for a consultation, if you're traveling this season and you really want to get another take on, any sort of red flags that there might be for your particular case, we definitely do consultations on that as well. We don't just do NIWs or anything like that. But either way, no matter what you might want to do, we do consultations. You could go to waypointimmigration.org. At the top, you'll see where it says appointments. We do NIWs, of course, EB-1As, visa stamping, admin processing, layoff termination, marriage, career planning. And basically there's just an other catch-all. So if you're, something else, we're definitely here to help make everyone's processes this time of year a little bit easier. With that said, obviously we're going to be talking about NIWs today, because that's what we talk about every time I go live. And, I guess I'll start with my intro. I forgot to say that. I'm Helen Partlow. I'm an attorney. I'm licensed in New York and Massachusetts, but it's immigration law, which is federal. So I serve the entire nation. We have clients overseas across the world. So I specialize in NIWs, and, NIWs is the EB-2 national interest waiver. It would lead to a green card, but there is a backlog for everybody across the planet. So, whether or not you got this approved today or whatnot, you would still have to wait several years until your priority date became current, and then you can file to get your green card through adjustment of status or consular processing, depending upon where you are physically located. So with that being said, it does not grant you a status. It doesn't grant you any work authorization or anything. So until you get that green card in hand, if you're in America, you have to stay in a status. So whether it be the one that you're in now, or you'd have to switch to another status, or you can file for this from someplace that you're not already in here. That's totally fine. We just recently got someone that was approved that's living in Pakistan, and we definitely have gotten people approved from many places in the world. So, with that being said, things are obviously different in 2025 for immigration across the board, and NIW is no exception. So today's topic is, how do we build for your profile in 2026? So, assuming that you are interested in learning about the NIW to see if it works for you, and how can you progress in that type of application, next year, obviously, because we're in December. It's not like you would be filing now. Maybe you were in the end stages and maybe you are filing now, but either way, going to be talking about what does that kind of look like next year. So, with this Trump Gold card thing kind of coming about, it is not really certain yet. So on the Trump Gold card, the website, and then this new I-140G form, you can select to apply via EB-1 or EB-2. And there is no guidance that I have seen yet that tells you which one you should apply for if you are doing the Trump Gold Card. So it makes no sense to me why someone would select EB2 since there is a backlog, and EB1 mostly there is no backlog. So it doesn't make sense to me why someone would spend at least $1 million+ to enter a backlog. But either way, the way that it is right now is those people that will be maybe applying for the Trump Gold Card will be getting in the same queue as those from EB2. So not quite sure what the demand would be still for a Trump Gold Card, but from the way that it is put forth now, it looks like they would be getting the same visa numbers. So could be potentially more backlog. That's, I guess we'll have to see what that looks like as things kind of progress with that. But then otherwise for the NIW, there is anticipation that the regulations will be changing next year, and it all kind of stems from the Trump Gold Card. So what that looks like, we still don't know. I'm hoping, if they do change it, then we'll have a better idea potentially in January. But either way, it's not like it would be changed and would become effective instantly. So the way that it works is that when they do release it, it's just like a draft form. It's not, official. It's not law or anything like that. They give a commentary period of 30 to 90 days where people can come and, discuss the comments on it, attorneys or people that would be applying, they can comment on what this is, public commentary. And then at that point, they're supposed to review the comments and then adjust the rules based upon, the ones that they find, that have merit and things like that. And then it eventually will become law, but that also means it will probably be litigated along the way as well. So anyway, the timeline is uncertain, of course, at this point. We don't know what those changes will look like, and we won't know, we certainly don't know now when they will be released. We can only speculate what they will say. We can only speculate. So, with that in mind, proceeding with how the NIW is now makes the most sense. So for the NIW, you have to show how you are impacting more than just your company, because the entire point is saying how you're so impactful that, you need to bypass PERM, you need to bypass labor certification, and you need to be admitted with a green card now because your work is so urgent and so important to the United States. So as 2025 has progressed, the level of scrutiny has definitely gone up with that. I talked to many people, and a lot of people just say, oh, I can get that said in a reference letter. I can get my manager to sign off on that. I can get the director, like anybody, reference letter. And that only brings you part of the way, honestly. So you definitely need objective evidence. So these reference letters need to be verifiable. You need to have evidence in the file, in your application, that supports not just the petition letter itself, but the letters that you're also sending in. So this is always a big hurdle for a lot of people that are, working with things that are confidential, proprietary, they're not allowed to share certain things and whatnot. So what a lot of people do is, I tell people what will also help your career, because I think that's really where the intersection is most genuine for NIWs, most genuine for what will continue to be considered for an NIW. So, thinking about it, what can you do to help progress your career? Not just within the confinements of your company. And it doesn't always have to lead to a publication in a scholarly journal unless you are a researcher, in which then, yeah, that makes sense. If you're getting your PhD, then yes, the USCIS is going to look to see, what kind of publications do you have? What kind of citations? How many years have you been publishing? Who is citing to you? Where have you been published? They're going to want to know different things if you are a researcher kind of profile. If you're not a researcher kind of profile, publications still might make sense, because it is you sharing something that is thoughtful about your field, about your work, and sharing it with other specialists in your area. Looking for things that the audience has specialized knowledge. So the idea is for you to be giving out your expertise to others in the field, not just the general public. So it could be things like not quite to the level of a scholarly journal or anything like that. It could be posting some blogs on Medium, or it could be an article in a magazine, like a trade magazine, a trade publication, a white paper, poster presentation. It could be something that was presented at a conference and then published, or it doesn't even have to necessarily be published. Maybe you are speaking at a conference, or you have some sort of speaking engagement, with a panel or a committee, getting involved with an organization like a professional membership. I always mention IEEE because that seems to have something for most of the people that I talk to, since they have so many different subsections. I'm looking to see how can you get involved with your field outside of work. What kind of knowledge and expertise can you help share with others in your field? And it could come out as many different things, like I had just said. So that's definitely one of the biggest areas to look at, when you're looking to profile build. How can I show proof that I am helping, share my knowledge with others in the field and kind of help move and progress things forward? Because that's the whole point, right? Is that we're trying to progress things forward. You are helping America solve some sort of a problem that we're having, and it's impactful beyond just your company. That's one way. So that's the biggest way. That is definitely like the crux of the entire NIW. Another thing that could possibly make sense to put some effort into is, what makes your knowledge and experience different than someone else. So this could be maybe getting a certificate, showing some sort of knowledge you have obtained, and it could be through that, or some special licensing. If you are in AI and it has been several years since you've gotten your degree, I like to always ask, well, how are you going to show the officer you're staying current? Because AI, obviously, technology usually in and of itself moves very fast, but especially AI has been exploding. So if you've gotten your degree, any time more than 2 years ago, and even still, what do you have as a paper proof? It's not just about learning on the job or, learning on your own. Unless maybe your company does like internal certificates. I have definitely seen that. Some people do, gain that kind of paper trail from their job, although I would definitely say it seems to be rare and unusual. But, getting some sort of paper documentation you've gotten through a course, you've tested, it is shown through evidence that you have additional specialized knowledge. Maybe you have a unique combination of degrees and experience with that, talking about how you are uniquely qualified and how it's not easily replicated through the perm process and demonstrated through that definitely can help with like a prong 3 argument as to why it's impractical for you to go through the perm process, and how your proposed endeavor, which is basically your mission, is not easily shown through the perm process. So by emphasizing what makes you unique is another good angle there that people can maybe look to see what kind of evidence you have. But definitely I would say the NIW in 2025 is not just about reference letters. Absolutely not. It is about what kind of evidence can you provide. So I am always telling people, look through and see what evidence can you get, because that is super important to look to see if there's any sort of internal documentation that you would be allowed to share, presentations, emails, performance evaluations, organizational charts, maybe some sort of internal kudos, or you won some sort of award. It can be internal obviously as well, because most people obviously work full time and that's where they put forth most of their effort. But it is definitely a combination of showing how you can be impactful in the future. And the only way that they're really going to be able to judge that is by seeing how have you already been impactful. So they're definitely going to want to see some sort of effort that's already been done. It's not just purely hypothetical in the future. If I come and tell the United States that I'm going to help cure cancer, but I have nothing in my background showing that is even remotely a possibility. Like, obviously, I'm an attorney. If I say I'm going to cure cancer, they're going to say, okay, well, that makes absolutely no sense. And it, doesn't align with my background. I have not put forth any sort of even foundational effort into doing that. Obviously, that's not what I do. I'm immigration attorney, but just kind of using that as an illustration. So now I'm going to look for questions. So if anyone has questions, please put them in the comments. If you are looking at this on the replay, you can always message me on LinkedIn, comment on LinkedIn. I don't look at the comments on YouTube. It's through the firm's YouTube page. I do get the comments though when I am streaming live. So if you are on YouTube or LinkedIn, you can make comments and I will see them now. If you are looking on it on the replay, please message me or go through LinkedIn, or you can also email us at info@waypointimmigration.org and we can help you out through that method as well. So let's see, how to apply for people who is located outside the United States. Yes, so when someone is outside of the United States, you still have to show how you will benefit the United States. So in this way, I definitely want to make sure I am adding an argument and a reference letter if possible on translating what your work looks like in your country versus what it looks like in America. So having that translation, even if it seems obvious to you, don't assume it's obvious to the officer. So I tend to look for an expert in America. Doesn't matter to me if they were born here or if they are a foreign national or a green card holder. That part doesn't matter as much to me. I just want them to be working in America and as high of a job title as you can find. And that way they would be able to translate what your work looks like where you are located outside of the United States and how we have similar issues and problems and how your expertise would be beneficial in America. So I think adding in that argument and a reference letter to kind of back that up definitely helps the officer see how this person in Pakistan, in India, in anywhere is going to also be beneficial to similar problems we have here and be able to really lend that expertise to solving a U.S. problem. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions today. I know a lot of people are probably busy end of year and all of that. But I'll wait a couple extra minutes here to see if any other questions roll in. Otherwise, I would say here's another question. Great. I have a job in freelancing work with purchasing order evidence from different firm. Is there useful to showcase my skill? That I'm not sure of. So it sounds like you're talking about, you're a consultant, and you're working with, when you're saying from a different firm, I'm not sure if that means like your end client or whatnot, but we definitely do need evidence of what kind of projects you're on, what kind of impact they've had, what are their results, and things like that. So I would definitely suggest, maybe a consultation to see what makes the most sense for you. Does having nonprofit organization that focuses on your endeavor help? How can we present this in a way that is not business, rather initiative launched and truly to benefit the public? So this is not tied to any specific job title. It's not tied to any sort of company. The proposed endeavor is what the work is in and of itself and what problem it's solving. So it really makes a difference as to how it is presented. When I'm describing one's proposed endeavor, I'm not mentioning a company. I'm not mentioning a job title at all. I'm talking about the work in and of itself, and how that will help solve a problem. What's the current NIW approval rates for standard and premium processing? So, the last time I checked, I'm not sure if it was distinguished between standard or premium processing. I don't think that it was distinguished in that way. But the last time I did check, I believe it was someplace around 55% approval from USCIS. As far as I'm concerned, I am seeing higher RFE rates across the board. Most of our clients do premium processing, which is what we suggest, considering that it's taking a year and a half plus to get these adjudicated, and we're not sure what changes will come in 2026. We want to make sure that they are getting adjudicated as fast as possible, underneath the regulations as we know them now. How often are you seeing unreasonable adjudications, i.e. ones holding the NIW case to a higher standard than the actual regulations? So this definitely does happen. I have seen lots of RFEs that kind of confuse EB1A criteria with NIW, and they use similar language. Sometimes they'll add things in to the RFE saying something like, oh, there is no publication, which is not required, or this publication has no citations, also not required. So they definitely do seem to throw it in a lot. I would say lately what I'm seeing is very broad and very generic kind of RFEs. They tend to maybe mention something in the case, maybe a reference letter. A lot of the time, these RFE results as of late are really could be from anyone's case. They're very, very general, very, very broad. They don't really interact much at all with the application that we send in, or they're asking for items that are 100% on the record, that they're not seeing it, they're not reading it. I'm not sure exactly where it kind of goes wrong on their end, if they're just rushing through it, if they're I'm not sure what is going on over there, but they're definitely not interacting as much with the evidence on file. I want to know if it's now okay to apply online. No, it is not okay to apply online. So it seems to me like they're kind of testing out some sort of upload for I-140s, but if you'll see, I might have to pull up the website specifically, but they have a website that literally states which applications can be submitted online, and the I-140 is not listed on there. You can't just put it in. There is definitely no harm in just printing and mailing still at this point. I really, really hope that they move to online filing, because we will save a whole pile of trees at the end of the day, because there's, these things are hundreds, if not 1,000+ pages. So, definitely we'll be saving trees, and especially because when they get the paper filing, they just scan it and put it into their system. And then they can ship it off to however, whatever officer they want within their system, however they allocate their workload, I'm not sure. But definitely do not apply online. It is not added in there as something that is officially accepted in an online format, even though it looks like they are allowed to upload it on certain areas of the website. Is an international equivalent degree required, given that I already hold a PhD Spain, which is an internationally recognized qualification? So if you have any degree that is not, conferred in the United States, you would have to get an education equivalency certificate. So this way it will show plainly that it is equivalent to a PhD in America. For NIWs, though, you don't necessarily have to have a degree to qualify. You could qualify under exceptional ability. One of those ways is you have to have 3 out of the 6 different factors there. One of them could be a degree or a partial degree or something like that. But the best way to qualify is with an advanced degree. So this is where you would have a bachelor's degree plus 5 years of progressive experience. That bachelor's degree would have to be equivalent to an American degree. So I know some bachelor's degrees overseas are 3 years and they don't qualify for ours because ours are 4 years. But if you have a PhD from Spain, I would assume that is also equivalent to a PhD here, if not at least a master's degree. And the best way to qualify for NIW is with at least a master's degree, if not a PhD. I mean, a PhD is just helpful, but if you have just a master's degree, you don't have to show anything else in order to qualify for the category. As far as like eligibility goes, you still have to obviously show your proposed endeavor meets the 3 different prongs. But yeah, so if you do have a PhD and it is not in America, you do need an educational equivalency certificate to include, to make sure that it is very, very obvious that it is acceptable here as well. I'm not seeing any other questions, and I know I started a little bit late, so I would go over a little bit if there were more. So if anything kind of comes in. Otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for, tuning into these calls. And if anyone wants to have any ideas as to what kind of topics they would like me to cover next year in 2026, I'm going to start thinking about what kind of, topics would be good to cover for these. Definitely want to do things that are helpful for people. So if anyone has any ideas as to what kind of lives they would like to see next year, please let me know. Okay, it seems like Eric has another question. But I'm not seeing that other question. So if you want to just message me. Oh, wait, here it comes. How much does it cost for a consultation with you to evaluate my profile? So our consultations are $198. We ask you a couple questions, you give us your resume, and then you would either meet with me or you could also meet with Alex. I believe Stephanie also does EB2 NIW consultations as well. But you could go on our website and see our availability. I believe most of this year's are taken. There are a couple that actually tomorrow with Alex, and then there are a couple on Thursday with Stephanie. But I know I am booked for the rest of the year. But I should have availability in January. I'll be back in the office on the 5th and taking calls starting on the 6th. So if anyone did want to schedule something like that, you could just go to our website and you can meet with any 3 of us. That would totally, be fine with me, obviously. Let's see, next year, focus on non-researcher profiles. Okay, yeah, I tend to definitely lean more towards them just because a lot of our clients are non-researcher profiles and they have their own kind of nuances and difficulties in getting documentation. Good suggestion. All right, thank you all. I wish you all a very happy new year. I'll still be online and posting through the rest of the year, but I will see you all in 2026. Everyone have a very happy new year, and I'll see you then.